Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon it's Friday and I'm joined by Jim Orr. We're here to talk about Celtic on three different fronts, Jim, because that's what you need to do if you want to be a successful club and win everything in sight. We've got a league game, Champions League game, and a League Cup final. What a week ahead of us.
Yeah, and I don't have a cup final ticket, so old man in need, now children needs finished. All the other rounds, and can't get a cup final ticket. So out there, here I am. Yeah, next Sunday, is it? Yeah, next Sunday. Yeah, it's quite soon. I didn't realise it was that soon. But yeah, great season. Loving the season. It's great. Good time to be a Celtic fan.
It is, Jim. But over the last wee while, you have spoken about the League Cup in a certain way that has divided opinion. However, the League Cup, I don't think anyone can doubt, is the least prestigious of the three domestic tournaments. However, the point I would make is winning that can galvanise your side. It can actually build your momentum. And some of the seasons that I'm thinking of is Ange Postecoglou fairly recently and Wim Jansen.
Yeah.
They were massive, weren't they? Yeah.
I think it means more if you're not doing so well. And I think if you're used to trophies, yes, it is the least important of the three. And if you're in it to win it. But in my view, yes, it's quite a long way back in terms of what I'd like to win going into every season. If we only won the League Cup, would it be a successful season? Of course it wouldn't. So it is. So it's also a chance to play players who are not getting a game, and that's what we tend to do over the piece. So that means the manager's looking at it the same point of view that I'll take a chance on this, and if we lose, we lose, because it's not the most important thing in the world. But next Sunday's a different thing altogether. Any Glasgow derby means something, whether it's back in the day Glasgow Cups or Dryborough Cups or whatever. So yeah, it means something. But I think the two examples you mentioned there was obviously 97. We're going through a pretty bad patch. We haven't won anything won the cup. We've had won the league in 9 years with Ange coming in. We were 21 points in the previous season. So yeah, I think that builds a bit of confidence that you can go and win things, which is good. Yeah, so we're in it to win it, and certainly next Sunday that's certainly the case. And then winning quite convincingly the other night, they're on a wee bit of form after that. They'll feel pretty confident. So yeah, looking forward to it. As long as I get a ticket, of course.
Well, that would be nice if we could get you a ticket. Can you phone one of the directors? That's what you used to do, is it not?
No, that's not me you're thinking of. That's somebody else.
You were on speed dial to one of the directors. Get me a ticket.
No, please, pity. Here's some money, please. Oh, that story. Aye, tell that story. Please give me a ticket. Actually, there's a kind of follow-up to that story which I can't tell on a podcast, but I'll tell you at some time. Anyway.
I like stories that cannot be disclosed at tea time or even at lunchtime. But
what do you do if you can't get a ticket? What do you do if you can't get a cup final ticket? Discuss. There's one for the
in the past
chat room in there. What have people done to get a cup final ticket? What are the lengths they've went to? There you go.
Well, the big thing for me and Kevin Graham was with me. We couldn't get a ticket for the Motherwell game, which was the second treble in a row.
Mm-hmm.
The Scottish Cup final, and we ended up having to go hospitality and pay a fortune to do it that way. Mm-hmm. Semi-final, Aberdeen 6-0 humping, had to do the same, had to go hospitality, corporate, and it's one of the ones, Jim, where the ticket's not worth the money in terms of what you're actually paying for isn't just to watch your team, you're paying for all the extras. I don't bevy and all that kind of stuff when I'm at a game. So
I get the balance. I totally get the balance. I think there's too many tickets going to corporate. That's the issue I have. And it is your luck. I would come out the ballot and I got a ticket for the semi-final. So I got one for the semi, but not for the final. But actually, a whole 8 days to go. Things will change. A week's a long time in football. Cliche number one today.
Anything can happen.
8 days is even longer. So there you go.
8 days is a long time in the world of Celtic. You mentioned the Dryborough Cup. For any of the younger viewers, what on earth was that, Jim?
It was a kind of Mickey Mouse Cup that happened at the start of the season, and no doubt somebody in the chat room will remind me, but I think it was for the highest scoring teams in the top league. So if kind of Celtic Rangers would tend to win the league or be second, they would inevitably the highest scoring teams. And teams like Hibs, maybe Aberdeen come into it as well. And I think it was a semi-final and a final. And there was a few Celtic Rangers games in the day. In fact, it was the first penalty shootout between the two of them was a Dryborough Cup game, which which Celtic won. And I think it was the drive of the cup was the game that Davy Cooper scored this infamous goal where he knocked the ball over his head. And fair due, Cooper was an astonishing player. That's why I don't like some of the songs that are getting sung about. I don't like songs that get sung about anyone who's now. But Davy Cooper's in there, and young people singing songs about Davy Cooper who've no idea who Davy Cooper is. So
no, that's right.
Bit of a tangent there. But Driver Cup, it was a kind of. Back in the day, when you think about, what do you think about most things in life? When you look back, you think, did we really do that? Did we really do that back in the day? Things like alcohol and smoking and driving a car, no seatbelt, all that kind of stuff. But back in the day, the League Cup was in sections before the season started, and quite a number of times Celtic Rangers were drawn in the same section. So they would play 2 games before the season even starts. And then there was usually a game pretty early in the season. So sometimes they play it 3 times in the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. But those were the days we only played twice a season in the league. So, but anyway, I'm still a bit mad to have that. And then the top 2, I think it was, from each section goes through and actually League Cup and off you go. So yeah, things evolve. When you look back to Cup Winners' Cup was a thing back in the day. There was anyway. The old man having a nostalgic bit here. Yeah.
No, but but when you look back on that, the topical reason at that time was the fact that the income stream wasn't geared towards broadcasting, Jim. It was broadcast. It was all geared towards getting more games so that there could be more punters coming through the door.
Aye, there was no televised football back then. Yeah. Zero, none. Whereas if we had the Driver Cup just now, that would be on the telly. Definitely. If not on Sky, it would be on the other Premier channel, is it called? Or TNT or something. It would be on something. Basically, you could see the Driver Cup. And that was just fantasy back in the day. Live football was kind of fantasy. They only started showing the Scottish Cup live. I think the Scottish Cup was live in the 50s, which is before my time. And I think it came back the 77 game, I think.
Yeah.
The Andy Lunch
game.
I think that was the first live cup final for maybe 20 years. Again, chat room.
And it hammered the attendance. It absolutely hammered the attendance that day.
Well, that was always Bob Kelly's theory. Bob Kelly, Sir Robert Kelly, to give me his official title, said that he was against any televised football, even highlights. It would damage attendances. But and I think maybe as TV becomes so saturated, it kind of hasn't these days. I mean, the fact that you can watch a lot of Celtic games. I suppose then all the season tickets that we have now, so I suppose that helps as well. So yeah, maybe that's a discussion for another day. A bit of a tangent there.
There's some great points in that tangent, though, because you're right. Robert Kelly wrote lengthy pieces that were published in the Celtic View around TV being the enemy of football clubs. Fergus McCann, when he comes in and he's running the football club, he realised, let's get the money in up front, guaranteed cash for your season tickets. It had never really been focused on prior to 1994, Jim, because you tell the story, was it 6,000 or 8,000 season ticket holders?
6,000 season ticket holders in 1990, yeah. You go from 6, and then Hampden, I think it was 18,000. We went to Hampden in 94, and then within a very, very short space of time, over 50,000 season tickets. And that's the vision of the man, Fergus McCann, in that era, which is told in a play called And If You Know the History, which is coming.
That is a beautiful segue. You didn't miss a beat. Brilliant.
This April, because I was coming for the game last Saturday. It was Saturday. And I usually listen to Radio Scotland, and then if they're covering some non-Celtic thing, I maybe flick to Clyde. And the first guy in Clyde comes on and talks about him and his dad left at half-time last week. I don't know if you heard that.
I heard about it. I didn't hear the call itself.
Me and my dad left at half-time. It was too easy. And then the panel slaughtered them, quite rightly so. And I'm thinking, well, maybe you, son, because maybe you feel a bit entitled, but your dad... Because your dad must have lived through that era where, we hadn't won a trophy in 6 years. Rangers are winning the league every year. They're going for 8, 9, 10 in a row. We've no money. We're about to go bust. And to have said something like that last week, give your ticket to somebody else, mate. Just give your ticket to somebody else. And come and see a play, actually, to educate yourself. Come and see a play called And If You Know the History. It tells the story of that year. What's like to be a Celtic fan there. Then always looking the bright side of life and all that stuff. It's a comedy, but I mean, even though it's a depressing era, it's a comedy, and it's got the comedy legend that is Des McLean in it. So there's your ideal Christmas stocking for her. There's my early plug at 12:40.
Early plug.
I'll just now plug Acsom mug. There we go.
Beautiful mug. But the thing is, Jim, In saying all that, you do bring up valid points. And I think the first thing I would say is if you've paid your ticket to go and watch a game, you can watch it for as long or you can leave whenever you want. However, I've known people, like my brother was guilty of this. I remember Ramon Vega's debut. Remember he scored 2 goals. He came in and he won a treble after playing like a minimal amount of games, really. When you can consider how many trophies he won. In fact, he is probably, and I've never done the maths on this, but he's probably the trophy per game king.
Alan Morrison, that's the guy you want. That's the guy you want. He'll give you that a second.
Because Near Beaton, I think Near Beaton won a trophy every 16 games on average for Celtic. Now that's mental. That's just astonishing.
What about Scott Bain? But I mean, he must be getting all these medals.
Scott Bain's already got the trophy for the most unused substitute appearances in the history of Celtic. He has sat on the bench 252 times and never came on. It's an astonishing record.
And he's got all these medals as well. So he must be the champion. He must be.
He must have just a wall full of medals.
That's it.
And he's sitting there with a pipe thinking, what a career.
Unused. Scottish Cup 2017, unused.
I laughed last week.
Unused.
Brendan Rodgers was asked about injury worries, and he was like, the only guy is Scott Bain. I'm like, who? Scott Bain?
Scott Bain's injured now.
Yeah. He's injured doing what?
I don't know. So that's
How did he get injured?
I think that's a good start. I think that's trophies per unused appearance. That's a new one. Alan Morrison, if you're listening, get into that one.
What is that? An X something?
I'm
not quite sure.
X unused, XU.
XU. He's an
XUS. Unused sub.
Yep.
Unused sub. XUS. That's it.
Sorry, Benzo, if you're watching. I've heard that you're good around the dressing room.
Good around the dressing room. Good around the dressing room.
You're good.
Again, that's one of those. That's one of those phrases people use. And you think, well, what does that mean? It tells jokes, or he juggles.
I know. Good around the dressing room. I love it. Scott Bain, brilliant. I'm looking forward to your testimonial, Scott. And
loved his debut, but Ibrox loved his debut. He was great. That was a big win.
He was. Aye.
He made that save right at the death of Morelos, was it? Just right on the line. He just fair play. Yeah.
Aye.
Scotty Bain, fair play.
The highlight reel will be 5 seconds long.
And it'll be 10 years old.
and then you could just show him going up and lifting trophies. Brilliant. Brilliant highlights reel. Benzo, the guy is an icon.
He's living a dream. He's living the dream without actually playing. Brilliant.
Is he a cult? Is he a cult icon yet?
Nah. Back to the chat room. What defines a cult? What's your criteria? I don't think it's a cult. If you can't play, then you're not a cult. Unused cult. Maybe that's it.
Unused cult. Indeed. Sorry, we are digressing today, Jim. I can't help it. Andy Lee throws in an old name, and you know this. And I'm looking at what was my first memory of the Skull Cup was probably the Brian McClare game, the 1986 Skull Cup final. 2-1 they beat us. Rangers beat us 2-1.
Good. McClare's goal, great goal.
Brilliant goal. Often forgotten because it was a
Just for younger listeners, the Skull Cup was actually the League Cup.
Yeah.
Just in case you get confused, that's not the Skull alcohol company. Drybra, an alcohol company, but Drybra Cup was a cup on its own. It's a pre-season cup, I think, for the highest scoring teams in the previous season. But again, somebody might correct me in the chat. The Skull Cup, the League Cup in its various incarnations has been called different things.
Coca-Cola.
What's it called this season? Coca-Cola.
Have they even got a sponsor? I'm sure they will. It'll be a
betting TV channel. Is it the TV channel it's on? Is it?
Maybe, yeah. Because it was a Premier Sports Cup.
Premier Sports, that's what it was called.
There you go. It means nothing.
It shows you the impact. It means nothing.
Exactly. And the Skull Cup, I remember more about Hagar the Horrible in the adverts than the sponsor itself. Remember Hagar the Horrible? Skull adverts.
I need to pass. Sorry, I need to pass.
Oh, Jim, you have a photographic memory.
No, not for Hagar the Horrible. Alcohol adverts. That's not one of my specialised subjects.
They were all over the programmes. Hagar the Horrible drinking Skoll. Was he a Viking or something like that? Sitting with his wee skinny mate in a pub.
Obviously, you were young and impressionable at the time. I just took it my stride, whoever it was. No idea.
I was young and impressionable. Indeed. Jungle Lion, with Ange under huge pressure now, he'll have to pick his strongest team against the Cheats on Thursday. Now, I don't want to focus
Thursday? I didn't realise that. Oh, goodness.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Exciting week. Yeah.
Fantastic. The thing is, I don't really tend to labour the managers previously, unless I'm comparing what we're doing now with regards to Brendan. Rodgers obviously has managed the transition from a very noticeable style that was played under Ange Postecoglou. But both Ange and Eddie Howe have been in the news over the last few days. So very briefly, the first thing I'm saying, I'm glad where we are. I'm glad who we've got. We had a brief discussion in the group chat, the Acsom group chat, whereby we spoke about the fact that these people are passing through. The fans are there before they come. The fans are there when they leave. These people are passing through. But I do have fond memories of Ange when he was at the football club. But I seen the footage last night, the Spurs fans abusing him.
Spurs fans, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm looking at that thinking to myself, Celtic fans can be very, very demanding. And obviously last season, people were talking about booing when we won a game 1-0, etc. Spurs don't deserve Ange, Jim. They don't deserve him.
I don't know. I mean, I saw that in the group chat, and I've got kind of mixed views on that. What was it they're calling him? Postecoglou? Yeah. I mean, fans are quite fickle. I mean, a year ago we're loving Big Ange instead. They were all singing. And fans are fickle. You lose games. I mean, football's about winning games of football. If you win games of football, people love you. If you don't win games, I mean, when Ange came, lost the first 3 of his first 6 games. There's been a lot of Celtic fans thinking, "What are we doing?" I mean, maybe not as I mean, Spurs are a funny team. I mean, Spurs should be so much better than they are. They're one of the big 6. They have the money. And it's beginning. I mean, when I see people saying things like, "Well, that's typical Spurs," well, I don't think it's typical anything. I don't think you can call something typical, a club typical something. Okay, they don't win things, and they haven't won things for ages. But there's a number of reasons for that. Is that the board? Is that the manager? Is that the players? It's a combination of quite a lot of things. They almost won the Champions League. Whenever that was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Yeah. Who was that? Who was it? Pochettino.
Was it Pochettino, I think?
Pochettino, maybe that. Yeah. Aye, good team, playing a lot of good football. Could have won the Champions League. So is that typical Spurs? No, I don't think it is. So I think he's kind of, I like the guy. I think he's a brilliant guy. Really kind of down to earth, humble, magnanimous, the whole thing. I know there's a few Celtic fans think he kind of did the dirty on us a wee bit, but I think he was given an offer he couldn't refuse and he had to go. But as you said, he's one of people, a number of people are just passing through. When he was here, he was brilliant. He was absolutely fantastic. And you couldn't question the guy. And I think if you've been honest, if you were in his shoes and given the opportunity to manage in that league in one of the top 6 clubs, to be given whatever he's getting wages on will be like 4, 5, 6, 10 times what he's getting just now. He's an ambitious guy. You would jump at that as well. So I don't think you can blame the guy. In his first maybe 6 months, they had him flying. Everyone's loving him. It went actually beyond football. Robbie Williams is getting involved. It's brilliant. And you want him to do well. Well, at least I wanted him to do well. And he always talks about he always wins a cup in his second season. So hopefully he wins the League Cup this season to shut fans like that up.
It would be important to him.
Also, are those fans typical of most Spurs fans? Because, I think most Spurs fans see what he's trying to do. I think I don't watch Match of the Day. Well, I kind of take Match of the Day and skim through it and don't listen to the comments. But any time I have listened to comments from guys like Danny Mills, they always say, well, he's got a style of play, he's going to stick to that. And it's like, and they always say good on him because it's good to stick to something like that. He's got a philosophy and he wants to stick to it. And people know, it works, it's brilliant to watch as it was up here. But I think what it feels down there is the competition down there are much harder than up here. So, you can have that system and it doesn't work particularly well and still beat Ross County. But having that system down there, even against a Bournemouth from last night, because these teams are actually really, really good, even though in the context of the football world, and I mean no disrespect at all to Bournemouth or Bournemouth fans, they're pretty small beer in the greater scheme of things. But given the money down there, they can all beat each other. So you don't have the disparity.
There's a calibre of player.
And that's why it was surprising for me that you got Spurs. That was what was surprising. Unless we have a manager who does well in the Champions League, winning the Scottish League isn't particularly looked upon as such a great achievement. And that's why to get Spurs, I thought that was amazing to get Spurs.
Well, I last night was with double denim. And I've got to say, I didn't get any photographic evidence, but he wasn't wearing double denim.
Right.
And that's an eyewitness report, Jim. So You can believe me when I say he wasn't wearing double denim. He's sent in a wee message here. Afternoon, folks. Hope everyone's in good fettle. Could be a cracking way to end the year if we get through the next few fixtures. Definitely have faith in the manager and the team to see us through. The main reason I brought that up is because we were together in Glasgow and it was a live event with Chris Sutton and John Hartson. And the reason I'm bringing it up isn't to name drop. It's to extend the point you made in relation to the way that the Scottish game is viewed down south. And around about that time, I know that Hartson didn't sign in Martin O'Neill's first season. He came the second season. Just getting Martin O'Neill, albeit from Leicester, who are far from a provincial club, but they're not one of the big dogs down in England. He was being chased, you'll remember, at that time by Leeds United.
Leeds.
And they came back for him. After 2 seasons, I think, at Celtic, they came back and O'Neill spoke to them, which was all admitted later on, and tapping, etc., etc. Leeds United actually spoke to Martin O'Neill, and he was tempted away. He didn't go, thankfully, at that time. We took Neil Lennon from the Premiership, Chris Sutton from Chelsea, Alan Thompson from Aston Villa, John Hartson, albeit Coventry had dropped down to the Championship, whatever it was called back then. And we took all these players from down south. Now, people might say, yeah, but they were all in their own kind of way, busted flushies. Chris Sutton hadn't done it at Chelsea, and Hartson had been failing medicals, etc. Tomo wasn't doing well at Villa. But what we were doing, Jim, is we were buying players of a certain calibre. And before I went on stage last night with Sutton and Hartson, I wanted to talk to them about all this chat around Arnie Engels, trying to make it as topical as possible. And, the transfer fee, basically. Those two guys on the stage with me last night accumulated, when they arrived at Celtic Park, they had accumulated between them £40 million in transfers. And you're talking 22 years ago when they signed for Celtic, or 24 years ago when Chris signed for Celtic. And £40 million. Now, if there was a football economist out there telling us how much that is in today's money, that's off the scale money. And we were bringing these guys to Celtic. And what I asked the two of them was, when John Hartson signed for Arsenal, he was British football's most expensive teenager of all time. They signed him from Luton for 2.5. When Chris Sutton signed for Blackburn Rovers from Norwich, he was British football's most expensive player. When he went to Chelsea, they paid double. They paid £10 million for him. And I asked about the pressure and the transfer fee, and both of them, Jim, said, never once did it cross their mind. Now, I don't see any point in them lying. Not once did that put added pressure on them in terms of this massive transfer fee. And of course, when they came to Celtic, they both cost around £6 million, record transfers. So they're saying to me, the whole transfer fee narrative that people continually go on about is just that. The manager doesn't care about it. Arnie Engels doesn't care about it. What's your take on it? Because I think there's a huge focus on looking at a 21-year-old, and it's mainly down to the transfer fee rather than the performances.
I think that's a kind of apples and oranges comparison there. I think for Hartson and Sutton, both experienced players, in Hartson's case, an internationalist, in Sutton's case, should have been an internationalist if he wasn't so stubborn, with a lot of mileage on the clock. And as we've said before, football is 90% mentality. Basically, you have to be mentally strong to be a football player. And these guys had done the miles. I mean, Arnie Engels is a young guy. I know he's Belgian, but went to play in Germany. So that must have been a big move in Germany to Scotland. So cultural changes, whatever. He's still a young guy. So the transfer fee might impact how he thinks this team have paid all this money for me, and I haven't maybe played to my full potential as yet, although the good start's maybe tailed off a wee bit. The guy plays for Belgium, so he has to be pretty good to get in the Belgium team. And that's always my kind of marker, that if other people think this player's good and you respect other people, and you have to be pretty good to get in the Belgian team. If he's in the Belgian under-21s, like Bernardo's in the Portuguese under-21s, you think he must be a good player on the verge or something. But to get into the full Belgian team, it's quite astonishing, because if and when hopefully Bernardo does the same thing, we're saying that we've got a Portuguese international and we've got a Belgian international. Irrespective of what they cost, you've got those are two of the top 6 countries in Europe, maybe top 10 in the world. Again, where's Alan Morrison? We need him. So these are good players that are recognised elsewhere. And like the Spurs fans last night having a go at Ange, I'm sure we have loads of fans having a go at the fact that Arnie Engels isn't maybe playing as well as he did when he first started. But he's a young boy, and he'll get that form back, and he'll be fine. But just the fact that Belgium have now played him in 2 or 3 games, something like that, that will do his confidence a world of good.
Massive.
Massive. I mean, playing for Belgium against whoever and playing quite well against maybe not playing so well against Ross County. I don't think that's keeping them up at night.
See the big thing, and again, I have mentioned it before, Jim. If you're going to focus on the valuation, Andy Engels is worth more money now than he was when we signed him.
You could sell him tomorrow and make some money on him, definitely.
Yep, because he's now a pure international.
Again, that's always my kind of measure, because you talk about I'm a kind of money person. So when you buy somebody, how do you know it's a good investment? Because you can sell them for more. That's the measure. Oh. So when you sign players that maybe, again, get back to that bad season, a Barkas or a Yeti, a year after, we can't give these guys away. So is that a good signing? No, really. So when you sign somebody else, like the Japanese guys that we've signed, Matt O'Reilly, perfect example. Not only are you going to make a wee profit on them, you're going to make a huge profit on it. Jota, straight away. So, and anyone who's on the, so like, when somebody like, I'm just thinking that we've got two American internationalists playing at the back. So anyone who you've got is playing for the national team that's not Scotland, I think that increases your value straight away. The fact you play for Scotland wouldn't cut it, I don't think, if you were looking to transfer somebody out with. So anyway, that's my view.
Talking of which, that's another great segue, Jim, and we didn't rehearse this. That was a brilliant segue.
And if you know the history,
if you know the history, if we're going from Engels to Luke McCowan, who didn't, to the surprise of many in the comments, who didn't get a start the other night, but played his part in the lead up to the goal. I have made a few predictions this season, and as it goes on, I might throw in a few others. So what predictions have I made this campaign? And by the way, they were early. It's not as though I was waiting until the dust settled. I predicted Aberdeen would be pushing for second. I predicted that Kuhn would be a world beater. Just check the tapes. It's all there. I predicted that Engels would score direct from a corner kick. And I thought if he came on the other night, he probably would have done. And I'm now going to predict that Luke McCowan's going to play for Scotland this season. He's going to get that cap, Jim.
I love him. He's great. He looks as if he belongs at Celtic Park. He looks delighted to play. You can see how much it means to him. I mean, we've got a fan on the park. It's great, and I hope he plays tomorrow again. And hopefully that's what happens this season. Maybe if the manager doesn't fancy for the Champions League, he actually plays a lot. I just think he's a great player. I think he's far better than I thought he would be. I thought he would do okay. And I've kind of championed that in the past. I think we should sign more players from Scottish teams, because I think you put a good player in amongst very good players, their standard will go up. Has to go up. And last Saturday he was brilliant. I mean, the goal he scored, okay, to be the deflection, brilliant. Just he was all over the place. He was putting in tackles. He was encouraging people, and he's got a swagger about him. Mm-hmm. The Glasgow word gallus, swagger, gallus. He's got it all, because he knows what it's like to be there. I mean, this time last year, you're playing for a struggling Dundee team, losing more games than you're, far more games than you're winning. It's a struggle, and a lot's on your shoulders every game. Just now, he's like 60,000 fans are banging in goals for fun. I'm tackling. I'm loving it. He's a brilliant, brilliant player, and that's why, again, I would say that you don't have to spend a lot of money to get good players. You have to get the right players. Unlike what you said about Aberdeen, I said Aberdeen were going to fall away pretty quickly, because I thought they were bang average when they came to Celtic Park in that 2 weeks game. In fact, I think last Saturday was one of those games we shoot, we score that you get now and again, because I think we've played a lot better again. I mean, I thought we played a lot better against Aberdeen in the 2 weeks game than last Saturday, yet we only scored 2 goals compared to 5. And that happens in football sometimes. So, yeah, I think they'll just fall away. I mean, they're quite a physical team, Aberdeen. They're not that great to watch. And I just think, anyway, what was the question? Luke McCowan, brilliant, long may it continue. And he's pushing hard for a start in every game. I think he should start every domestic game. And whether Brendan fancies the Champions League, don't know. But he's not let the club down. There's been, and I might have a bad memory, but I can't remember a bad pass or doing something you think, oh dear, what's he done? He's just been great, and he's. I mean, that game with Ross County, the first game, it was his when he took the ball out of the air, played the pass, and up, bang, 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 we get a goal. And those are all the wee things in the game that, at the time, you think, well, maybe you don't notice it, but when you play it back, you think, well, that was a bit, because Bernardo chased him down in the corner somebody get fouled, and they're all part of the same thing. The pass to Greg Taylor the other night, brilliant.
It was such a positive pass. That's the thing, Jim.
Because what you tend to get in football, because people talk about all the kind of stats, and somebody's had so many assists. Well, you get assists, and you get assists. You pass the ball 5 yards to Callum, and he pings it 40 yards. That's an assist. But the Greg Taylor assist the other night, I mean, he looks up, and he's got the ability to put it exactly where he wanted to put it, bang goal, and that wins the game. So if not for Greg Taylor, we don't score the goal. So that was dead impressive the other night. But look, McCowan, long may it continue.
There's a massive conversation around Greg Taylor. We are, of course, facing Hibs this weekend. Hibs, who are sitting second bottom of the table, but only 3 points separates them from 8th place Ross County. They need to start stringing results together. They look as though they might be able to do it, and hopefully it doesn't continue this weekend. But I do see Hibs as an underachieving side. Jim, you will remember them as being a better side back in the day. Since coming into the Premier League, obviously they won the Championship back in 2016-17. Then their league positions have been as follows: 4th, 5th, 7th, 3rd. Then 8th, 5th and 8th. Now, who was the manager when they came 3rd? I'm going to say Jack Ross. Was Jack Ross the manager when they came 3rd? Yes, he was. But since then, and again, talking about fickle fans, because he got sacked unceremoniously, they've fallen off a cliff, Jim. And I was talking about the last 5 seasons and the fact that they've had 5 managers in that space of time. They've signed 50 players in those 5 seasons. They're a bit of a basket case of a football club, and a stark reminder of how well run our own club is, because, you need stability and you need continuity, and they've not had that.
Yeah, I think for obvious reasons, Hibs are. I think Celtic fans have got a soft spot for Hibs, and we'd like to see Hibs do well. They've had a poor season. Albeit the last couple of games, and they did well. That was a gutsy performance against Aberdeen each game, and then they beat Motherwell the other night. So they'll be feeling a bit better about themselves. They've got themselves off the bottom of the league. Yeah, I mean, for the sake of Scottish football, we hope Hibs don't go down. I hope Hearts don't go down, because those should be strong teams within the league. They always try to play football. That's another. I think that's kind of Hibs' philosophy. So I think it'll be quite an open game tomorrow. But looking forward to the game tomorrow. Because Hibs, I was just thinking of you talking there. The last time I was on, I made a comment about Celtic before Jock Stein and how that in European terms they weren't any more famous than say Hibs, and I just plucked out the air. And then somebody in the comments was, "What are you on about? We've won all these trophies, and Hibs haven't won any trophies." Who was the first Scottish team to play in the European Cup? Go.
I'm going to say Hibs.
Hibs. How did they get into it?
Probably by winning the league.
No, didn't they?
No?
They were invited. Aye.
They were invited. Now, were they invited due to their support? Because I know that the Coronation Cup, they invited Celtic, even though we were nowhere near being a champion club at that time. And we ended up winning it famously. But it was because they realised we'd bring a big support.
I don't know why they were invited, but at the time, I think it might have been Rangers won the league. It was one of these things that here's this newfangled European Cup, like the Driver Cup. Here's this newfangled European Cup. Who wants to come in? If you win your league and play this, and a lot of nations, a lot of winners of National League said, "Naira, right? Forget it." So they wanted teams to make up that. So basically, if you're a follower of the European Cup, you'll have heard of Hibs, because Hibs actually played in this thing, whereas until 1966. Celtic. Anyway, I'm having a wee dig at the person who made the comment there, so just a bit of fun. Hibs have always played good football. They have underachieved. You would like to see them do better. You'd like to see them do what Aberdeen did, or have done up to now this season. Get manager in, even if they have to kind of follow the Aberdeen route of being physical, more but overly physical and aggressive and all that sort of stuff to get results. It's for the good of Scottish football. You want that challenge. Obviously, you want to win at the end. You want to just, a bit like last season, whereby it's easy-peasy till you get to kind of March, April, and then you just get ahead. And that's dead exciting. The season when George Burley was at Hearts, when they won the first 10 games, whatever it was, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't 10 games.
I think
they
were unbeaten in 12. They were unbeaten in the first 12 games.
What was the score we played them? Was it a draw? There's a back for the chat room. You want these teams to do well. You want to be competitive. You want to be exciting. And I'm not trying to sound like the guy who left at half time last week. You want it to be competitive. You really want it to be competitive, because there is no fun in winning games too easily, too often. You'll take it because that's your team, and you'd rather see your team win 9-0 than win 1-0. Take it every day of the week. But it doesn't say much for the league, and this maybe plays back to the point before about Ange getting a Spurs job by winning in Scotland, when Scotland, the Scottish league within the football food chain, it's pretty low down.
No, you're right. And if Ange doesn't succeed, whatever Spurs think success is, then that will be one of the pointers, I'm sure, because they always look down their nose.
But I also think they are where they are, because, I mean, they're usually 5th, 6th, 7th. That's what normally are, and I think they're 5th, 6th, 7th just now. So they're kind of where they are. So, you know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But you brought back to memory talking about the so-called Celtic fan who left at half-time. And I'm not saying so-called because he decided to leave. I'm not sure he was a Celtic fan. I don't know how these phone-ins work. I don't know, because as I've said before, being not from that area, I'm from Fife, I don't actually tune in and listen to them. I've probably become more aware of them since they had a YouTube presence, Jim, and a social media presence. But in terms of just tuning in,
back in the day, radio, I mean, again, old man reminiscing time. Back in the day, it was revolutionary. There was a guy called James Sanderson, who you may or may not have heard of. He has a really distinctive voice. And it was like, it used to be Radio Scotland maybe in the 60s and in the 70s, and they would have live second half commentary of a match. That was it. That's all you got. You know, it wasn't on the telly. Live second half commentary of a match. And then Clyde came on the scene. Clyde started in the early 70s. And about 70, again, chat room, you can tell me if I'm talking rubbish again, 76, 77 or so, they then get involved in the football. They were having live commentaries, and it was they who started the phone in. So the ordinary punters are on the radio talking about Celtic or talking about Rangers and getting to ask questions of people. It was revolutionary, absolutely revolutionary. It's had its day. I think we are sitting here on a podcast. I think that takes over from it, because I think that what I have found that when I speak to my friends, they don't listen. I mean, if there's a Celtic game away from home, they tend to tune into Acsom before the game, half-time and after the game, because it's fans talking about football. They're not interested in Hugh Keevans.
Agendas. It's just, you know what it is, Jim? It's agendas, right? And that agenda can be set by the producer of the show. It could be set by the state of mind of the individual, but there is an agenda when you're on a mainstream channel. You could be currying favour with certain teams, sponsors, whatever it is. When it comes down to, and I can only speak of Acsom, we're independent. We answer to no one, and it is genuine, authentic opinions from Celtic supporters. Yeah,
it's kind of, so to give it its due, back in the day, revolutionary stuff. And I'd imagine they copied it for somebody else, maybe down south. But then for a period of maybe 20, 30 years, that was a commonplace. And it's still a commonplace thing, obviously. And there's more and more of them. And because everyone, certainly Scotland, everyone loves the football. They go to the football. We've got the highest, whatever that is, the highest attendance per population, whatever it's called, per head. Yep. Okay, the big two tend to skew that, but hey-ho, that's what it is. You know? So, yes, it was a phenomenal thing in its day. It's kind of had its time. And because of things like you're saying, because back then, it was all pretty new and pretty naive. So let's just do this and see what happens. Whereas now it's a bit more structured, a bit more planned. The guests they have on that, and again, I mean, absolutely no disrespect to the guy, but people like Cammy Bell. Scott Bain.
Yeah,
he's a kind of Scott Bain type of guy, whereby you think, well, he's put it at the top level. He's obviously a top class player, whatever. But if you're going to go for somebody to be a pundit, and you're maybe trying to appeal to the other side of the city, they must have loads and loads of people. There's a lovely guy called Dave McKinnon that people will remember, played for Rangers in the early 80s, who now plays walking football, and I've had a number of chats. Lovely guy. He was the chief executive of Kilmarnock, Dundee, something like that. He's got a wealth of experience in football, intelligent, articulate guy. You know, that's the guy you want on, because he knows what he's talking about. He's a good understanding of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, so
give us an angle. Talking of walking football, Jim, and talking to Chris Sutton last night. Apparently his brother plays now. Did you know that, John?
John Sutton, his own team. Well, I don't know if his own team. It's the John Sutton, something that's called out of Mary Hill. Aye. Played against them.
There you go.
Not John Sutton.
I'm trying to give you info and you've already got it. Chris did say that even when he played professionally, John was a walking footballer, but I don't know what he meant by that.
Well, shout out to Tom Boyd. Tom Boyd came along to present some trophies a couple of weeks ago or so, and I was just talking about, that's. I know you were involved with the Celtic. What was it called? Celtic Greats.
Yes.
Your Simon Donald, Tom Boyd, stuff like that. And I was just saying, I think there's a place for walking football with ex-players.
Absolutely, yeah.
People would pay to do that. People would, if you just say, we'll have a walking football competition at Lennoxton, and there's going to be 8 teams, and all 8 teams are going to have 2 or 3 ex-Celtic players, and it costs you so much to play in that team, and the money goes to the foundation.
Great idea.
A chance to play walking football with Tom Boyd and Joe Miller and Roy Aitken and
you need to pitch that idea. You need to pitch that idea.
I did to Tom Boyd, Joe Miller. Go away and talk to somebody. That's it.
Aye. They
know people.
Contacts.
You know people. Well, I don't know people. I know nobody. Apart from Kevin Graham, that's the only person that's famous. That's it.
I saw you chewing the fat with John Collins the other night. Listen, Jim, I'm going to ask you a question because I know that you have a knowledge of Scottish football as a whole far greater than mine. And this
Keep
is
digging.
I never said far longer. I said far greater.
There's a wee input.
There was. I'm sorry. And what I'm thinking of is the way that we've done things for a long time now in the Scottish game is that we have relied on buying in our players from wherever, right? And the standard, because at first, I think back to, and there was examples before this, but I think back to the Dutch players that Aberdeen were buying in the 90s. And you're talking quality players. You're looking at the foreign imports that Celtic had in the early days, and you're thinking that we were doing it not as a rule, we were doing it if the player, and I think we probably peaked in that respect in the earlier days with the Three Amigos and Andy Tom. These guys were brilliant and they improved your squad. We're now at a point where they're filling jerseys, they're maybe not even in the team, they're part of a wider squad. My question to you is, if Aberdeen, Hibs, Hearts and Dundee United focused solely on rearing their own talent in a youth academy sense, Jim, would they be any worse off after 5 years? Let's use Hibs as an example. Would Hibs be sitting second bottom of the league if they had invested all their focus on their academy and bringing through graduates every season so that 5 years down the line, you've maybe got 18 boys who you have reared yourself? Would we be sitting here thinking they're cannon fodder? Would they be any worse off than what they are now?
It's all about opinions. I would like to see the Hibs, the Hearts, the Aberdeens of this world do exactly that. I think you would, as a Celtic fan, have more time for them. You would admire what they've done, because we couldn't do that because we've got to win. Different level. Yeah, we're playing the Champions League, different level altogether. I think they would do better. I think they would attract more fans along to see them if they saw that kind of strategy, that kind of pattern. And even though they might suffer a few times, I think eventually they would get there. Pretty much like the Mowbray team that were there with Scott Brown and Riordan and O'Connor, Colwell. Who else was in that team?
Kevin Thompson.
Thompson. Who was one we thought we were going to get. Anyway, John Collins said that the other night. So, that was a dead exciting Hibs team who did really well against a far, far better Celtic team. Good as we are now, compared to the team that Hibs team played. That was Martin O'Neill's team. So they were up against that team. And in fact, I know people talk about Black Sunday, or it's called, when Scott McDonald scored those. But we lost to Hibs a few games before that, 3-1 at Celtic Park. Scott Brown ran riot. And that was the game that if we won that game, then the Motherwell game would be incidental. I believe would have been won. And that was a young, exciting Hibs team. So, and if you're a Hibs fan, you must look back to that team and thinking, if only we could get back to that. And I don't know many Hibs fans, but I think if you said to Hibs fans, would you like to do exactly what you said? I think they would say yes to that, because some of these players just aren't very good. And they're coming from lower league, English football, English League Division 1 and 2, whatever. That's not to say they're not good players or they're better players than they've got, but I think that's quite depressing when you keep saying that. It's good when young guys make their debut and they come through and maybe score some goals and whatever. But and it's also hard to empathise with a Hibs or a Hearts if they're signing those kind of players. Because there's a lot of Scottish players in the team, you would have a bit more sympathy towards them. I think. But then again, football's big business and it's about winning games, and that's more a kind of idealistic, I think, view of
Probably.
Yeah.
I imagine having that 5-year plan. I live in Dunfermline, as I've often mentioned, for my sins, and there's Petrivi playing fields, which is a brilliant area that people walk their dog, whatever. There's running tracks, there's football games, and of any typical week, between 1,100 and 1,500 kids play down there. Over the period of 7 days. And I think anyone with scouting experience could go down there and pick out the 20 best players for every single age group. Now, I'm wondering to myself, at that stage of their development, are they any better or any worse than the players who eventually end up in the squads of all these teams?
I don't think they are. I mean, I've banged this drum for as long as I've been banging drums, that we've got just as much talent in this country as any other country, and they're all sitting in classrooms every day of the week. Go and get them. Go give them a chance to play football. Go and give them the opportunities. Make it easier. Make it easier for kids to play football. It's too difficult for kids to play football. These days, it's free. Make it free. It's a middle-class sport.
Yeah.
And basically, if your local boys club is 2 miles away, and how do you get there on a wet, cold Thursday night? And if your parents don't have any transport, and how do you afford the fees, because the club are getting charged 50 quid for a small gymnasium and for an hour, or whatever it is. It's so difficult. And I get the point that in life there's far more important things than football, but the health benefits of that as well, the learning skills that kids pick up, social skills that they get at that age, playing as part of a team, accepting defeat, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they're all sitting there, and what society has to do is has to find a way of getting them to play football. And the other thing I've said before about things like why can't they AstroTurf all the school, any areas within the school, just outside or inside the school, AstroTurf pitch down there, paint some goals on the wall, just do something to make it easier to have a game of football. Encourage parents to come in after school. The thing is, what I have found in my experience, 20 years of doing this, is that head teachers are quite risk averse. So having a school team, that's a bit risky, because you have to get them from A to B, and who's going to take them, and what if this happens, what if that happens, and whatever. So understandably so, they're not dead keen. So I think there's a lot of challenges, without me having a kind of semi-rant here, about how you actually do that. I think you can see the end point of this, where loads of kids get to play football. And as you said, somebody wanders down and says, I'll have those 20 and we'll do that. It's having them playing football there. So even though you've seen 1,000 kids playing football, there really should be 2,000 kids. And from the age of 5 upwards, and when you get to a certain age, you shouldn't be lost to the game. When you get to 16, 17, you need to keep playing. There needs to be a way of keeping playing. And we refer to walking football, which is the most amazing thing that's going to happen within football. It's the fastest growing sport in the country, where you've got tournaments for over 75s, which I'm not there yet, but I'm in an over 60. I'm just a young guy.
I'm saying nothing, Jim. I am saying nothing.
No, I'm digging myself, Paul. You're right today.
Am I old enough to play?
It's me. Well, there's an over 50s.
Well, I'm not then.
And someone like Tommy Sheridan is taking us to duck to water because he was quite cynical, but now he's winning trophies abroad and stuff like this. So the fact that that's able to happen, and all the benefits therein for like old sods like me, we need to give young kids a chance to play, because there's going to be a lot of talent there who will never get a chance to kick a ball, and will never know.
I know
they're actually talented.
Here's 2 examples.
It's an opportunity. Yeah.
2 examples I would like to just cover before we get back onto the Hibs game, right? The Johan Cruyff Foundation. When I say the 2 words, Johan Cruyff, everybody watching this show and everybody who listens to it on the audio platforms have heard of Johan Cruyff, right? Now, there is a Scottish footballer, I'm not sure which one it will be, that has that kind of reach, that appeal, that global recognition. I don't know who the Scottish, is it Kenny Dalglish maybe?
Kenny.
There is a player, right? Now, the Johan Cruyff Foundation, they go all over the globe installing mugger parks. So what's that? Multi-use games arenas for use of communities, right? And they have installed 300 of them, Jim, all over Europe. And they do it. They've done it in Scotland. There are Johan Cruyff Foundation. So they're financed by the foundation of Johan Cruyff. And why do we need? It's fantastic that they've come in and done it in Scotland. Why do we need someone from outside to do it? Why do we not have the foundation in the name of a globally renowned Scottish footballer, where we can actually have that ideal that Craig Brown spoke about, whereby within the radius of any village in Scotland, you can go and get a game of football free of charge. You can go and kick a ball free of charge.
There's a documentary about Crystal Palace I watched about 2 years ago, I don't know, I'm losing track of time, where they were showing these young Crystal Palace players under 14, 16, something like that. And they talked about the cages, and it seemed to be that within London they'd built all these cages, which I think were free. I think they just wandered and played because they were kind of in the kind of local areas. It wasn't like fancy goals and pitches sort of thing. It was just like within a housing scheme, there's the cages on, you go and play. So there needs more of that. So nobody would disagree with this. I think it's having someone or some people to just grasp the nettle. But if you speak to anyone, again, who's involved in grassroots football, they'll have a million stories about how difficult it is to actually get things done.
It's the red tape. But again, a beautiful segue, because you mentioned Crystal Palace. I'm going to give you the name of a footballer called Justin Devaney. Have you heard of him, Jim?
No, I haven't.
Right. 21 years of age, started off his career at Kilmarnock in 2021. After loan deals at Broomhill and Adrionians, he's freed. He's a free agent. He's on the scrap heap. Who takes him to Airdrie, I hear you ask? And the name of the person who takes him to Airdrie is Jackie McNamara, a player who, time and time again, I bang on about, because he's an absolute massive loss to Scottish football, Jackie, right? He takes Justin Devaney to Airdrie Onions. Justin has now made, right, a number of appearances for Crystal Palace's first team, and he's been capped by the North of Ireland, right? Although born in Scotland. This is a player that Scottish football had discarded, Jim. They had discarded him. He was on the scrap heap. Jackie got him in at Airdrie, started playing on first team football as a young kid. He's now in the first team at Crystal Palace. Now, there's a lot to be said around that. The talent is out there, going back to your original idea. If Jackie doesn't step in, Justin's working in a call centre. You know, that could have been the outcome. But also, there's figures who are no longer involved in Scottish football who should be, and McNamara is one of them. Jackie McNamara is one of these figures.
Totally agree. I mean, to sort of counterbalance the argument, you know, there's only so many places in football teams for people to go around, and not everyone can make it. But yeah, my concern is more for that younger age group to be given the chance to play football. What happens after that? In terms of how they're coached, etc. And that's maybe one for another day as well. In terms of how good coaching is, and even kids getting the opportunity to play football, are they coached properly? What does that even mean? Coach properly? What does coach properly mean? You know, you just let them play and see what happens, as opposed to no tactics, and you have your kind of Jose Mourinho wannabes at the side and playing for systems and all this kind of stuff. And
PJD on the bubble jacket. As long as you've got the initials on the bubble jacket.
Get in the corner and waste time and whatever. So there's a whole. I mean, it is not a simple solution. It's not as if we're saying go and solve the problem. There's lots of complexities to actually get to where you want to get to. But if there was even some direction of travel, call it that you think, well, this is what happens. So because I think every school should have a school football team. So you join in primary one, somebody says, we've got a school team, right? There may be a kickabout in the park, the local park on a Saturday morning, but that's the school team, basically. And then they get a chance to mix out with school.
Yep.
In a social environment and kick a ball about. And then, you know what, maybe you think, actually, he's no bad and she's no bad and he's no bad and she's no bad. We could put an actual team together here. And actually, is there a local league we can go in? So they get into primary two, we'll stick a team in that wee league and then we'll see how we go on. But everyone's got the chance to play. And I'm not one of these people who, and I've got into trouble in the past about this, saying that everyone should play when it comes to kind of leagues and what have you. They have to play. They have to be good to get there. In the same way that if a music competition was going on somewhere and a school's going to send people along, you don't send somebody along who can't play music. You know, you send a talented musician. You can play the guitar. We'll send you along to that. You can play football. You're in the school team to go and do this. But give everyone a chance to see what they're like, because everyone will find their own talent So you can play football, you may be not very good, but you may be good at something else.
And even if you're not good and you don't get that opportunity to take it anywhere, you have learned social skills, team morale, confidence, all these different things.
Correct.
And, even when I was younger, we went every single year, we went to Amsterdam every single year as young kids. And what that taught you in a social aspect, and I don't mean the bongs and all that, because I wasn't obviously into that. I was only 12, right? But in a social,
keep digging.
in a social respect, is that you were basically within a group of people who were all the same age, peers. Sometimes there was an older age group with you. There was the coaches, the whole thing. You became mature earlier. And I think that you were looking at people who weren't involved in that gym and they were missing out big time.
Also the memories that you'll have had from that, looking back on that. I mean, I was fortunate taking school teams and we won a few things. And the sheer joy when you're 11, 12 years old of winning the league, of winning the cup, because you will never do that again. Chances are, unless you go in. I had one lad who went to play for St Johnson, a really good, still playing, I think, and won the Scottish Cup with St Johnson. So, but for everyone else, this will be the highlight of your football career. Chances are, and it's a memory to look back on. The year you were in that school team that won that cup. Yes, I was. Here's a photograph of that. So looking at me, it's not about the winning. It's not about the winning. That's the wee icing on the cake type of thing sometimes. But the bonding and the camaraderie and a lot of that stuff lasts for life, not just for the school time.
Without a doubt. Tony Ratton, tough schedule, but hopefully the quality and depth of our squad will see us soon. I think it will, Tony. There are going to be times, I've seen a comment on yesterday's show, didn't get around to bringing it up, saying that a quadruple treble shows that there is no competition in the game. I think you can flip that and say it shows just how well prepared every single day, 24/7, Celtic were to manage, because no matter what the competition is like, you are likely to lose a cup game, Jim, in 4 years. You are likely, for whatever reason, the other night there against Aberdeen showed that, you don't, it's not a given. You don't turn up and just win the game. Something can happen in one of these matches.
It's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, luck plays a part in it somewhere down the line, but most of it isn't luck, but there'll be real bit of luck. And the game the other night, we played in farcical conditions, so you get a cup tie like that, and we could have easily dropped points the other night, and you wouldn't be looking to blame the team because you can't play good football in that, and Aberdeen are a bit overly physical anyway. So I mean, I don't think, I mean, we know we are the biggest, whatever metric you want to use, Celtic are the biggest club in Scotland, whatever metric you want to use. So every game you're the favourites to win the game, and if you don't win the game, that's unexpected and that's disappointing and whatever. And that's why if you win in 5-0 at half time, stay and watch your team.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you're talking there, and this isn't like blowing our own trumpet, Jim, but I shared this with the group. Even on a kind of content basis, if you were to look at every other Scottish football type team outside of Celtic and Rangers on YouTube, for example, right? Acsom has had more views than any other club, official media team who've got a budget and they've got staff and they've got coverage and they've got global fan bases in some cases. A Celtic State of Mind has had more views on YouTube than every single club in Scotland except for Celtic and Rangers. That's astonishing.
You must be doing something right then.
That's astonishing. Or the clubs aren't doing something right because they've got budgets. They have got the means to be able to build something. And some of them have done really well. If you were to check out the figures, Motherwell are really high in the list of views. They're doing something right. Hibs are really high. You could combine every other team in the league. You could take Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen, combine all their views, and Acsom have had more views than them. So in terms of vision on every aspect of the football club, these teams have to do better. There's no way that Aberdeen shouldn't have the same kind of scope as Acsom, which is an independent platform. And that's down to the football club and vision and realising that this is where you actually attract a lot of kind of new viewers, potentially new fans. And they've got to look into that. IH Decorating rotate against Hibs, full strength in Zagreb, full strength in the League Cup final. Win, draw, win, and I'll take Monday off. And you'll be entitled to that as well. And Paddy, you were talking about every aspect in Scottish football. Celtic are the best. And that's why Acsom are getting the views, because we are talking about Celtic. Great player trading model across the city. Yeah, it's shambolic, Paddy. It's absolutely shambolic when you consider how financially astute Celtic have been for a number of decades now.
Here's a question somebody asked me the other day. I don't know the answer. Does the second place get a crack at the Champions League qualifiers this season?
Not. Now, I brought this up, and it was Alan Morrison said it's not guaranteed.
Right.
So there's a series of qualifiers.
Does it depend on the coefficient? No, does it?
Well, that will come into it, Jim. But I was of the view, because my argument about Aberdeen finishing second being a game changer was built on that possibility of getting into the Champions League. And Alan said to me, there's no guarantee that will happen. So there's a lot of moving parts in it.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Obviously, the winners of the league go into the last playoff stage.
The winners of the league, yeah. Aye.
Yeah, last place. So we're not, assuming we win the league, we're not guaranteed Champions League football. We've a qualifier to do. Okay. So, however, I wasn't sure about the second one, because people talk about, I was talking about Aberdeen falling off, and the rivals across the city will be second, and with a wee bit of luck, they could qualify for the Champions League, and that's a game changer for them. You're talking about game changers. You know, they could be second miles away and qualify for the Champions League, and we could win the league by a mile and not qualify for the Champions League. So there's don't be too resting our laurels.
No, this is it, because the finances for both Aberdeen and Rangers, if they were to get into the Champions League, would be huge.
Game changing
figures. Stuart Ramsey, afternoon Acsom, and all my fellow Tims, hail from the West Midlands, and Anthony Aiken. I'm bringing this up here because there are plans to do various things with Acsom. Paul John, can you play a wee tune in the build-up to going live? See, about 5 or 10 minutes before, it's my phone does one, and I forgot. Now, there are going to be changes in 2025. You're still going to get Acsom at 12:30. You're still going to get your hour, but it's possibly going to be better. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to be a better product in 2025. Loads of planning.
That's me finished then. Okay, bye.
No, we might be able to see you in more technical, Jim. That's all I'm saying.
More scary. That's quite scary. Okay, right.
More clarity to Jim, who people are calling here the Celtic Oracle. They're calling him the legend, and they're calling him the voice of direct, unvarnished reality. Jim,
that's a good one. I like that one.
I want that on
unvarnished reality.
League Cup, smell the glove. You're right. It's the 7-1 Cup. Absolutely. It doesn't matter who sponsors it. It's the 7-1 Cup. And John Taggart brings up the Johnny Kenny debate, which I'm sure we'll speak about between now and the end of the campaign. Is he the answer for the third striker? James French spoke about him a couple of weeks ago. He said that Celtic had not been in touch with him during his loan spell at Shamrock Rovers. Tony Cassidy, I'm going to leave this one for everybody to get involved in. What do you do if you find a spaceman? I'm not sure, Jim. Do you just ask him in for tea? Who knows
what's the context of that? Is there something happened? I don't know.
Well, there's obviously an alien invasion ongoing all over the globe that we're going to have to deal with in our lifetime.
I must have missed the memo. I must have missed that memo.
Yeah, it's easy to miss. But Tony, I don't know. You tell me. What do we do with him? Who knows? I don't have a nuclear bunker in the back garden, unfortunately. But someone out there might be able to tell us. What I would advise you, Tony, just go and watch Paul, the movie Paul. Just watch that. That's the way it's going to be. And thank you, every single one of you, for getting involved. Thanks, everybody, for coming along to the event last night with John Hartson and Chris Sutton. It was tremendous, brilliant dynamic between the two. And I'll be in Cowie tonight. It's sold out. Really looking forward to that. And then on the 19th, we'll be at Barazat and Design. Jim Orr will be joining us, I believe. Jim, you're on the list.
Definitely. Big Roy, Paddy, Peter Grant. Yep.
Brilliant. Yeah, if you want to come along, tickets are going quickly. When I look at them, we're in double figures. It will sell out. If you want to get a wee special deal on it, just type in Acsom 1888 when you are checking out, and you'll get a nice wee discount on your tickets. We'll get it sold out, and we'll have a cracking night. Prediction for tomorrow, Jim? Kevin Graham says predictions are for fools.
I think Hibs will score 3-1.
3-1 Celtic. Let us know in the comment section if you agree with Jim, and join us tomorrow, half an hour before kick-off, on A Celtic State of Mind.